Why Carrie and Big had a totally toxic relationship that wouldn't have worked out. In this video, we're gonna do something different than what we normally do on this channel. We are gonna talk about the infamous relationship between Carrie Bradshaw and Mr. Big from Sex and the City. We're gonna talk about why this relationship most likely wouldn't have worked out. We'll talk about the red flags and what you can learn from them and how that can help you get the love that you want. We need to discuss this couple because they were influential for so many of us, especially those of us who are millennials who were really young when the series came out. This relationship made an impression on us. And it did penetrate our psyches, not on a conscious level, but definitely at an unconscious level. And it screwed so many of us up in the heads regarding what a healthy relationship looks like. So I wanted to go into it a little deeper, more than I could in a 3-minute video on TikTok. So that is why I'm bringing it to YouTube. We are gonna dive in, we're gonna talk about this couple and what we can learn. This is gonna be a really fun video. I actually hope to make more of these. We'll see how you guys like this one. So make sure you watch until the end. All right, so let's take it back all the way to the beginning. Let's go all the way back to season 1. From the beginning, Big only seems mildly intrigued by Carrie at best. He definitely is not taken with that like, wow, I'm swept away type of feeling. They meet like a bunch of times. They just keep running into each other and running into each other and running into each other before he even asks her out. And then he asks her out and they start dating, but they get off to like a very shaky start. First of all, from the very beginning, Carrie says he's out of my league. Once you tell yourself that story, that already creates the dynamics in a relationship. So that's just an important thing for you guys to realize in your own lives. She already saw him as being way out of her league and almost like she had to play a role in order to fit in with that. And that's even something she admitted to. Now, from Big's end, what we see of him from the beginning is he has a type and Carrie's not it. Like his type was supermodel-esque type women, 5'10", like very classically beautiful and whatever, kind of basic, kind of bland type women. Carrie's not that, but he was still intrigued by her. But at the same time, he's reconciling the fact that she's not exactly who he sees himself with. And this is a big part of their relationship. It gets written off as like he has commitment issues, but that is more of what's at play here. But we will talk about his psychology a little bit more later. So he's only minorly intrigued by her. They do start dating, but like anytime she tries to better understand where the relationship is going, where his head's at, if things are serious, he never gives her direct answers. He always like speaks in riddles or makes jokes or deflects. And he never answers her directly. Like she'll say something like, so, you know, you and me, is this for real? And he'll be like, every minute of my life is for real, baby. Or when she wants to know if they're exclusive, she says something like, you know, I've been on the merry-go-round and I just want someone to stand still with me. Like, will you do that? And he just kind of like stands still, but he doesn't answer the question, you know? He never answers directly. She is always left like, extrapolating like what he might mean based on his actions or whatever joke he told. And that's why for her, he feels so confusing. He feels like such a riddle when really he is kind of spelling things out for her. Now, as she tries to like push the relationship forward, he says to her multiple times, like, I need to take things slow. I need to go on my own time. And she kind of acts like she's cool with that, but then she's completely not. And like, she'll just have a meltdown or freak out about something and fly off the handle. Like when she wants to meet his mother and he's like unsure about it. He's like, look, I need to do things on my own time. Like, let's take a vacation. She's like, yeah, sure. Let's take a vacation. So they're about to go on the vacation. And then she's like, wait, before we go, like, tell me I'm the one. And he's like, didn't we just say we were gonna like take things slow? Like now you want me to tell you that you're the one? And he can't tell her that she's the one because he's still unsure about her as he's been from the beginning. So he can't tell her and she's like, I can't do this anymore. She breaks up with him. This just kind of shows like how hot-headed Carrie is because just go on the vacation, like go to St. Bart's and then deal with this. You know, why are you gonna break up with him right before you're supposed to leave? When you just said like the day before you were fine with taking things slow, but whatever. Time marches on, whatever, she's dating new people. And then her and Big end up hanging out again. And once again, she's the one pushing things in a certain direction. Like it seems like he would have been fine having like a friends with benefits type of situation, but she wants to get back together. So she's the one asking questions and bringing things up. And eventually he, in his own way, agrees that they're back together now. And Carrie's friends are all like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Why are you getting back together with him? And she's like, it's different now. It's different now. And it's like, what's different? She's doing the same thing again. She just hangs on to these like scraps he throws her way. Like, he doesn't want her leaving any of her stuff at his apartment. But then he gives her the pink toothbrush head and there's only one pink toothbrush head in the set. And she like holds on to that as being super significant, even though it's like super useless and meaningless. And it's almost sad in a way. And I think that a lot of us can relate to Carrie in that way, that you hold on to these little moments, these little things that the guy does that indicates maybe he does feel the way that you want him to feel. Okay, so they're back together, whatever, things are going the same. And then Big gets this offer to move to Paris for work. And he doesn't tell Carrie because whatever. And she finds out and she's like, first she's really upset, but then she's like, it's okay. Like, we're gonna work this out. We can work this out. And maybe I'll go there and you'll come here. Maybe I'll move there. And he's like, well, don't move there for me. And she's like, why would I move there not for you? And he's like, well, I don't want you to expect anything. Basically telling her, look, I'm still not sure I want to commit to you, Carrie. Like, how many times do I need to tell you? She's so upset. She throws the McDonald's food at his head and she's like, how can you do this? And then she's like devastated and spirals and she's all upset and says that, like, he's a commitment phobe. He can't commit. He couldn't hold on to this great woman. However, at the same time, Big moves to Paris, and while he's there, he meets a girl and he falls in love and he gets engaged all within 5 months. The problem is not that this man couldn't commit, it was that he didn't want to commit to her. So he comes back to town and Carrie tries to, be friends with him and they go out and he tells her that he's engaged. And she's like, what? You're engaged? Like, how can you be engaged? You have a problem with commitment. And he's like, well, things change. And she's like, meaning what? Like, you didn't want to marry me. Yeah, Carrie, he didn't want to marry you. He didn't want to marry you. Like, how much clearer could he have made it? So again, though, but she doesn't see it that way. She sees it as he has commitment issues. And then she says that I was just too much for him. His feelings for me were just so strong. And that's why he had to go with this bland, basic girl. And she compares it to the way they were, whatever you got to do to make yourself feel better. I get it, girl. So time goes on. She ends up dating Aiden. Oh, poor sweet Aiden. I actually did a whole series on them on my TikTok as well, on why they never would have worked out either. But she's with Aiden. She's happy. She's moving on. She runs into Big, and Big, having the avoidant attachment style that he does, having commitment issues and an avoidant attachment style aren't the same thing. Big obviously can commit, but he is more of an avoidant personality. And anyway, having that attachment style, he's feeling a little restless in his relationship. He's been married for all of 7 months now. He sees Carrie and she's not obsessed with him anymore. She's happy. She's moved on. She's not this anxious, clingy, needy woman anymore. He's intrigued and thus begins the illicit affair between them. Now, in looking back, it's funny because it's like they want us, the viewers, to like root for Carrie and Big to get together and to feel like, oh, they're soulmates, they're meant to be. And all these forces, like him choosing to marry someone else, are just getting in the way of this true love. But it's like, no, they're two screwed up people who have this mutual draw to each other because of their screwed upness, if that makes sense. They both get needs met from each other, but these aren't healthy needs and it's not a healthy situation. Anyway, they have this affair. Natasha ends up finding out. She's completely devastated. And then Carrie and Big are done. And Carrie is like, we are so over. We need a new word for over. Time goes on and Big is kind of in and out of Carrie's life. He's not really so significant for a while. He's just kind of like a guy who's there and they seem kind of on friendly terms, whatever. Then he comes back to town because he needs to have heart surgery. Sad foreshadowing for what's to come. And there will be spoilers for the new reboot. So if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to know what happens. You're not missing anything if you haven't seen it yet. There will be spoilers. Okay, so he comes to town, he needs heart surgery, and Carrie takes care of him, and she's like nursing him, and they're, spending time together. And while he's recovering, he looks at her and he's like, what are we doing? Life's too short. Like, we should be together. And she's like, yeah, finally. Like, our time has come after all these years. But the next morning, he's like, no, take it back. Totally changes his mind. And he's completely closed off once again. Once again, Carrie starts the process of moving on. Now she's dating the Russian. And of all the guys she's dated, the Russian was the best suited for her. Like, they were endgame. I know that was never gonna be how the series ended, but he was the most perfectly suited for her, honestly. Anyway, once she's happy and moving on, Big can't let that happen. He swoops right back in and he's like, no, Carrie, I love you. Be with me. And she's like, you cannot do this to me again. That is it. I'm done with you. I'm moving to Paris with the Russian. Forget you know my number. You know what? Forget you know my name. And it's so sad. And he's like so heartbroken. And we all like feel sorry for him, even though he's been like a complete jerk to her for like the last 6 seasons. So she moves to Paris. He follows her, does the grand romantic gesture, and he's like, you're the one. And they kiss and they have this beautiful Hollywood ending. Even though, the writers of the show, the creators of the show, everyone involved with the show knows that they never would have ended up together. Like, the real life Candace Bushnell did not end up with her Mr. Big. And everyone admits, okay, this was complete BS, but we had to give you guys your happy ending. Like, you see how these things completely mess with our minds? Like, we know this makes no sense, but we're going to give women false hope anyway that, if a guy won't commit, all you got to do is stick it out for long enough and eventually he may see the light and you'll get your happily ever after. So they get their happily ever after. Time goes by. We're in the first movie now. They decide, let's get married. Yeah, why not? Let's get married. Great idea. And he ends up leaving her at the altar. Like, after everything they've been through, he leaves her at the altar. Like, can you think of anything more humiliating? I cannot. And then like, he never really apologized. He left her at the altar. She's devastated. Like, he knows where she lives. He knows how to find her. Instead, he was just copy pasting like poems written by these great men from the past and emailing them to her. Email. Girlfriend doesn't even have a smartphone. This was 2008. Everyone had a BlackBerry and the iPhone had already been out for 4 years at this point. Email, she barely knows how to use the internet, and that's how you're gonna try to apologize? He didn't even try because he didn't even really want to, because he's never really had much motivation when it came to Carrie, honestly. But even still, the end of the movie, when she goes to their apartment that they never lived in to retrieve her shoes that she left there, she sees him and she just immediately forgives him because she's like, it's not logic, it's love. Logic and love can't exist together. Like, come on. She forgives him. They do end up getting married, happily ever after, blah, blah, blah. Second movie, Carrie finally has Big. She has him after all this time. And now that he's there and he's available, she's completely bored with him. Because Carrie, I think, has an anxious avoidant attachment style. When she can't have someone, be it Big, who she couldn't have the majority of the time, or even Aiden, when Aiden didn't want to forgive her, when he was unavailable to her, she can't handle that. She freaks out. She becomes completely obsessive and like anxiously attached. But when she can have someone, they're super available to her, she just gets bored because she feeds off the drama. That's what she lives for. So he's available to her and she is just so put off by it. And she is like, I do not want to be one of those couples that stays home and orders takeout and watches TV. Like, what do you think this is? And it's like, Carrie, that sounds like an amazing relationship. What are you complaining about? You finally have this man. He's home. He doesn't even want to go out. Like, he just wants to be home and be with you. And she's like, no, 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 I can't have this. She runs away to Abu Dhabi with her girlfriends, and while she's there, she's just insufferable. That movie, I like to pretty much block out that movie. I like to pretend it never happened. But while she's there, she ends up kissing Aiden because she needs the drama. She has to stir things up. Big is really upset about this, but they make up, whatever, all's fine. Now we go way later in time. We're on this reboot. Ugh, if you want my thoughts on Reboot, it's all on TikTok. We're in this reboot, and then we're led to believe that they've just been perfectly happy for the last decade. Everything's been smooth sailing. Everything's been great. But then Big dies, and Carrie has to start anew. And Carrie was like way sadder about him leaving her at the altar than she was when he like dies, just by the way. Okay. Let's unpack a few things here. First of all, the fact that they want to tell us that they've been happily married for a decade is just ridiculous, because we've seen that Carrie just can't let that happen. She needs too much drama in her life. She can't just let things be. And we've seen in the reboot that like she hasn't changed that much. So I just find that insulting. I feel like there's so many more interesting things they could have done, but this is the route they decided to take. But let's talk about some lessons that you can learn for your own relationships from the two of them. First, just to recap their relationship from the beginning, the issue is that she was never what he wanted. She did fulfill a need, otherwise he wouldn't have kept going back to her, but she never quite fit in with what he wanted for himself. And he does have an avoidant attachment style, and she was just a little too much. He needed someone who could let him be a little bit, and Carrie couldn't because she has an anxious avoidant attachment style. That's just a bad pairing overall. The problem on her end is that she never really loved Big. She loved the idea of him. Now think about this. Not a lot of people realize this. What do we know about Mr. Big? What do we know about him? We don't even know his name until the last episode of the series. We don't even know his job. Like, can you name any redeeming qualities of his? You can't. All you could say is that he does funny things with his eyebrows and he's rich. Like, what else do we know about him? We could say nice things about Aiden. We could say, you know, he's so good to his dog and he was so good to Carrie. He stripped her floors and he was so considerate. He showed up at Miranda's mother's funeral, even though Carrie was horrible to him and told him not to come. We could say nice things about Steve. We could say nice things about Harry. Like, we know their redeeming traits. We know their jobs. We know things about them. We know nothing about Mr. Big because neither does Carrie. And we're seeing the show through her eyes. And she's not in love with any of his redeeming qualities. She doesn't even care what they are. She is in love with what he represents. He is the male embodiment of New York City itself. He's grand, he's cold, he's aloof, and he's rich. Carrie, he fulfills the void within her that she was trying to fill with all of those Manolo Blahnik shoes. Like, I remember being really young and watching this and thinking it was so glamorous how like Carrie would just like spend all her money on these expensive shoes and had this amazing wardrobe. And I went through a period where I was really young and I would like take my measly little paycheck and go to Bergdorf Goodman and buy like a $500 dress, but then I would eat like from the dollar menu at McDonald's because I like couldn't afford to eat, but I had a $500 dress. And I grew out of that very quickly and realized how ridiculous it was. Carrie never did, because at age 35, we see her like with no money in the bank. She has like $700 in the bank, can't buy her apartment, but she realized realizes she spent $40,000 on shoes. This is not glamorous. This is psychosis. Like, that's mental illness. And whatever Carrie was trying to fill within herself with the fancy shoes is what she was seeking the same thing by landing a man like Mr. Big. This was not a healthy dynamic. Honestly, do you think she would have been so obsessed with him if he was Mr. Bartender instead of Mr. Big? I don't think so. You know what would have been a way more compelling storyline, like in this reboot or in one of the movies? What if Mr. Big just lost all his money? Maybe he got conned by Bernie Madoff. Maybe he bought like a bad Bitcoin or something and he lost all his money. Now how does Carrie feel about him? That is a storyline I would like to see. Also, another point I forgot to mention about the second movie is, remember how Big was like, maybe we should just spend a few nights a week, like, in separate apartments. Like, you still own your apartment. Why don't you go there a few nights? Like, she was so insufferable that he needed a break from her a few days a week. And then we're supposed to believe that like they were happy for over a decade together. I mean, come on. It's just so cheap and such lazy writing. So now let's talk about some lessons that we could learn from their relationship. Number one, you can't force a man to feel the way you want him to feel. That was Carrie's problem all along. She had an agenda in mind and was trying to force things in the way that she wanted them to go, when he was clearly resistant to that. And then it would keep blowing up in her face time and time again. If a guy says he doesn't want to be in a relationship, believe him. If a guy says he wants to go slow, believe him. If a guy treats you like you're not a priority, believe him, you're not. Number two, you have to look at a situation for what it is, not what you want it to be. Now, Carrie did what a lot of us do. You know, a guy, maybe he disappears for days or weeks at a time, but then he comes back and he says, oh, I've been thinking about you. Oh, I love you so much. I missed you so much. But it's like, okay, but if you missed me so much, like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you text me? Why didn't you get in touch with me in one of the millions of ways there are to get in touch with someone in this day and age? But you hold on to the fact that he said that and you ignore everything else. And this is a classic thing that Carrie did. She would just hold on to these scraps that he dished her way that were so insignificant in order to like prove to herself that reality is as she wanted it to be. And finally, do you really love him, or is it the idea of him? We've seen that Carrie was in love with the idea of Big. And a lot of us do this. When we think we're in love with someone, it's really what they represent to us. It's not really who he is. For Carrie, landing a guy like Big was validating. It meant something to her. It meant she was someone. It also meant that she made it. Carrie always wanted to be in that upper echelon of New York society. So getting a guy like him would take her there. Now, for you in your life, look at the guys that you're so attached to and can't let go of. A lot of the times, it's not because they have these qualities that you can't find anywhere else, because of what they represented to you. Maybe he represented being seen, being understood. Maybe he has a lot of darkness to him and you have some darkness to you and you just want to feel that connection. So he represents connection to you. Now that doesn't mean you can't have a connection with anybody else. It just means you've imprinted that onto him and you've just decided that he's the only person that can give it to you. So that is our breakdown of Carrie and Big's relationship. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about videos like this. If you want me to make more of them, I could do other couples. I mean, there are tons of toxic ones to choose from, like Ross and Rachel, Chuck and Blair, Bella and Edward. I could go on and on. So let me know if this is something you want to see more of. And if you like this video, please make sure to like, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment letting me know what you think. And I will see you in the next video.